Okay, so here we go, class number 9. It's a lot of cleanup today that I'd like to do, and it's probably not going to be a class as long as the last several. So for cleanup, there were some things I should have had people tagged in for that I posted, and I didn't. So I asked Mason to post those, to tag you all for those things. So you should be seeing a tag for a post on very magical sculptures, um, on A Path Working by Nikki Scully, on the complete audiobook of Condensed Chaos by Phil Hine, um, just an image of T. Thorne Coyle's Evolutionary Witchcraft, both of which are very good, and the Jane English translation of the Tao Te King, because I want to make sure everybody gets those, sees those, and can listen to them where it's an audio. Alrighty, so that takes care of that, the tagging stuff, the stuff I'm afraid some people missed because they weren't tagged. Next thing is, haven't heard from anybody yet about having tried any of the things that I suggested. Meditation, dream work, wearing a different color every day. I forget what else I mentioned. I'd love to hear from somebody that they've tried some of this stuff, because you'd be surprised how much of it will work for you, how quickly. I've always been astonished at how much of it works out quickly. And sometimes I focus, which we all do, a little too much on the thing that didn't work or didn't work as quickly or as expected. Let that go. That's just, it wasn't meant to be at that point in time, and it's okay. And don't go around saying, what did I do wrong, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I can't do magic. Yeah, forget that. Sometimes everything conspires for your good. And you may want something that will take you in the wrong direction, or you'll miss an opportunity. I worked very hard, did some magic once I got out of graduate school in film, to get a job in the film industry, and I so wanted. I was writing scripts and applying, and nothing was going anywhere. It was terrible. And it was like 2 months after graduate school. I didn't have any money, and I was behind on the rent, and my landlord said, if you don't come up with rent, like, by Friday, I'm going to have to evict you. And that was like on Sunday, I think she said that, or Saturday. And I told her, I said, I'll have a job by Friday. I won't have the money, but I'll have a job by Friday. And will that be enough? And I will pay you immediately from the job. And she goes, okay, sure. And she didn't think I was actually going to do it. And this is back in the days when you got the want ads in someplace like Los Angeles. There was a ton of them. And I just went through and I picked everything and anything I thought I could possibly get. Didn't have to be in the film industry, just a job for some income. And I got a job at a place called the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, working part-time for, I think, minimum wage or whatever it was horrible. And I didn't have a car at the time, and it was far away, so I had to catch 2 buses to get there. It was a nightmare. It was a friggin' nightmare. I mean, I think I had a bus pass. It was all I had, and food, and maybe a few dollars. But so I applied to all these things, and on Monday I got an interview at the Coffee Bean. And actually, Monday I called, I got an interview at the Coffee Bean. After the Sunday, looking through the paper. Tuesday I got hired, and I went to my landlady and said, I just got a job. I'm working at the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. I start, next week. Can you wait until I get it, and I will pay you back fast as I can? And she said, you really got a job? I said, yep. I said, you can call them if you want. She's like, okay. And I started going to work, and I got money, and I paid her, and she was very, very happy. But I was like, oh, it's horrible. It's a terrible job. I hate this job. It's so boring. I hadn't done retail in a while. I didn't want to do retail. Minimum wage. I hadn't worked for minimum wage in years. It was horrible. Anyhow, long story short, I'm working there about 6 months, and I go from being part-time, I think I was working at 3 different stores initially, and one was so far away. It was in Santa Monica, and I lived almost in Glendale, which, if you know LA at all, it's the other side of the city, basically. Anyhow, so I did that for a while, and then after less than 6 months, I was full-time. They asked me if I'd like to be the store manager. So I got promoted to store manager. My income went up incredibly from what it was. And that was all really, really nice. Okay. And that was stuff that I was working for. But the kicker was, after I got to know one of my coworkers, she said to me, you know, I used to work for this film company. And I go, oh, really? Which one? You know, but by then I thought, that's all too far away. It's going to take forever. And she used to work there. Now she's working here. And she said, it's a place called Films Incorporated. And I said, oh my God, I remember them. I used to order films when I was an undergraduate for them from the film program at my college. And I said, you have the catalog. I'd love to see what the catalog looks like. He said, yeah, I'll bring it in. She brought it in. I went over it and I said, oh, this is really cool. It must have been fun to work there. She goes, it was okay, you know, but I wanted to change. She said, would you like to work there? I said, I would love to work there. The funny thing was, from the first time I had seen their catalog as an undergraduate, as a sophomore, and had ordered from it for the film program for the college, I thought, oh my God, this is back before DVDs and videotape and cable. I would so love to work for this company where I could just watch movie after movie after movie, because they had this huge catalog, and they were all old films and foreign films I'd seen it but heard about and I wanted to see. Anyhow, so she said, okay, that's cool. And then like a month later, she said, why don't you come over to dinner on, you know, Sunday, because we all had Sundays off then. This is a long time ago. And because the stores were closed on Sunday. And I went over to her house on Sunday, and this woman she introduced me to was the one of the managing directors of the Films Incorporated in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles branch. And she was in charge of operations. And we just hit it off, Betty and I. And she said about a month later, called me up and said, they've got a job opening. Would you like to apply for it? And I went in and applied for it, and she gave me this huge recommendation. Was it Films Incorporated, which had been a huge dream of mine. Now remember, this is still before there weren't any DVDs, there wasn't any streaming, there wasn't much that was recorded and on VHS tapes then even. There was definitely cable by then. So it was still kind of, you know, hit and miss. But there I was, and they had 10,000 feature films in the library. Most of them in-house in Los Angeles. Some were only in New York or Chicago or Atlanta, the other stores. And I could take home 3 feature films. This is on film, on 60 millimeter film, every week. I got my own projector. That when I started working there, the first thing they did after all the, you know, the benefit forms and signed all that stuff, they said, here's your film projector. And I was like, what? And I have 16 millimeter film projector. I get 3 films every week. And they showed one reel of a film, which I think was like 20 minutes at the time. Yeah, I think it's 20 minutes. Every day at lunch. And we all watched that during lunch. And then one of my friends, I made friends with people there, and one of them said, well, I don't usually take home more like 1 or 2 films. Would you want my 3rd one? And I was like, oh my God. So I was watching like 6, 7 films, I think 7 films a week. 3 of mine that I took home, basically 2 at work, so that's 5. And then I think I got 2 from her. Oh, plus we got invited to screenings all the time because we were in the film industry. Anyhow, so my point is that had I gotten some little job that I really didn't want, working, I don't know, in some crappy little film company doing some crappy little thing, I would not have had a dream come true. And that was a dream come true. It was amazing. It was just freaking amazing. And I worked there until they closed for several years, until they closed the Los Angeles office. And that was, anyhow, so sometimes you enchant for something and you're like, why am I not getting this? And what you get instead is something that's like, oh my God, this is what the cat dragged in, as they used to say, but that, if you stick with that, will take you to someplace you really want to go. And that has worked most of my life in most circumstances. Occasionally not. And I wonder then, is there a disconnect between what I'm working towards and what I'm huge? There's no way for anything to reconcile it and put them together to come out with something. So I'm not sure, but we're still working on that. Okay, so next, let's go back to invoking and evoking. Invoking, you're calling an entity that is, a superior, much superior form, like a God form. Not really, you really wouldn't invoke, I don't think, an angel. I wouldn't, or an archangel than myself, but a God form, yes. So when you're dealing with a God form, you need to know their name, their proper name, whatever it is. And if they got more than one name, you should know those, so you can call it with all those names. You need to know about them. Not just like one idea. You need to do some research so that you know what you're getting into. You know what they can help you with, what they can't. You know what their what their disposition is, what their things they're going to work against, even if you want them, and things they're going to help you with. And you want to make an offering to a God form of some type, even if it's just praise and gratitude. And with anything you invoke or evoke, in my personal opinion, always offer praise in the invoking or the evoking to the entity that you're requesting an appearance from. Okay, so casting a circle. We talked about casting a sphere instead of a circle, but still doing the circle on the ground thing before you do the sphere. So the circle on the ground, what I forgot to say, was just like the pentagrams and the circles that you're drawing in the air in front of you in 4 different directions above you and below you. When you're casting the circle on the ground, again, a pentagram with a circle around it. Okay? So you want the pentagram inside the circle, with the points of the pentagram touching the circle. Okay, so that takes care of that. And still housekeeping here, basically. Okay, another thing. I suggest that you have some type of magical artifact, I guess is a good word for it, or a magical tool that you wear. Now, again, I have the red Garuda that I wear every day. And it doesn't matter if it's a ring. It doesn't matter if it's a bracelet or a mala. It doesn't matter if it's a, what else would you wear? I don't know. But something that has a symbol of whatever you're connecting with. Bracelets, rings, amulets, any of those. Okay, so I have mala beads that I don't wear all the time to chant sometimes when I'm doing meditation. I do take a little break and I chant. And mala beads, you may not know what those are. Hang on a second. Let me show you what mala beads are. Okay, so mala beads are sort of like the Eastern version of a rosary, for those of you who know what a rosary is. And a rosary is a bunch of beads on a string that you count when you're saying prayers. It's the same thing with a mala. Okay? And normally, when I'm just wearing it, I wrap it around like 3 times around my wrist like that. And then when I'm actually chanting it, what you do is you start there, because that's the beginning or the end, and you do, Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha, Om Tare Tutare Ture So 2, Om Tare Tutare Ture So 3. And just keep doing that until you've gone all the way around. Now you're supposed to do 100 at a time minimum, so there's 108 here. And that's because they know that we all make mistakes. And if we do 108, that's great. And if we miss 8 of them, we'll do 100. So that's another thing. What else? Okay, I think that covers those things. Now, let's talk a bit about servitors and thought forms. There's a lot of interesting ideas about what servitors and thought forms are. They're not demons and they're not gods, either one of them. Servitors, thought forms, and tulpas in the Tibetan way of using the word, or the concept, is an entity that you create. It's like you become the creator of a life form. Servitors, thought forms are different. Some people think servitors are thought forms. They classify them the same. There's a type of thought form. Other people say no. the difference for me is a servitor is an entity that you create specifically for a task. You want to get a raise at work, you want to get a new job, you want to find a new apartment, you want to find something. You're looking for something, you're trying to accomplish something. You have a book that you just wrote and you want the sales to increase. Doesn't matter what it is, but it's a task-oriented thing, a goal-oriented thing with a task. So you create a servitor specifically to help you achieve that goal by doing certain tasks. And you assign it the goal and the tasks. And you give it time to do those. Again, reasonable amount of time. And again, stuff that's possible, not fictional or fantasy. So again, you won't create a servitor and say, I want to be a million. And if you're say you're making what most Americans make right now, which is probably $60,000 a year, which is nothing in terms of how rich people are living. So if you're $1 a year and you say, I want to be a millionaire next year, not going to happen, most likely. I mean, really, that's a real stretch. Okay? And your magic would have to be in really great shape to be able to do that. And I think if it had been in that shape, you would, and you wanted to be a millionaire, you wouldn't be making $60,000 a year at this point, if that was your goal. Okay? So if instead you say, I would like, to increase my pay, my income, it doesn't even have to be pay, it can be income. It can be a gift, it can be lottery winnings, it can be anything, just your income, your wealth, your net wealth. And I'd like that to be $80,000 a year or $100,000 a year. That is maybe a little under, but not. It's possible to get there. Now, if you say, it has to happen by next week, again, really pushing your luck there. If you give it time, yeah, the chances are pretty good. Okay, so thought forms. Thought forms, in my experience, tend to be more along the lines of tulpas. And those are entities that you are bringing to life in a humanoid form. Servitors don't have to be in humanoid form at all. Tulpas tend to be in a humanoid form, and a lot of thought forms tend to be in a humanoid form. I was working with a thought form at one point in time, not too long ago, and I could actually see her very clearly. I could actually hear her. I could actually feel her touch me. And I thought that was quite interesting, quite fun. Servitors, you're going to get very specific with the servitor, and in creating the servitor, first of all, you're going to usually give a servitor a limited lifespan. So servitors are of the kind where you say, I want to move to Paris in 2 years and have a job that supports me well there. And I want you to find opportunities for me for that to happen, manifest that. And then there you are, you're in Paris, you have a good job, and its task is accomplished, it can now leave. And that's already set up ahead of time. Or I want $20,000 extra money by the end of the year. You get that, it's done, bye. Okay, so, and then other servitors, you have them for much longer. They're still task and goal oriented, but they're not do that one task and then disappear. They're do that one task and then hibernate until you need them again. Usually those type of servitors, the tasks that you have them hibernating for is a similar task. So, you're in sales. I guess an easy way to do it. You're in sales, and you say, and your territory is, because people have territories in sales, well, if they're not retail, your territory is California. Los Angeles, Southern California. And so I want my sales to double in Southern California. And it does. And you do just a great job that the company says, oh, you got new territory. Now you're the sort of guy in charge of the entire state of California. And you're like, oh. Now the servitor doesn't care about the rest of California. He's not going to help you with it unless you retask him or her or it for the whole state of California. And then they get back to work and they help you do that. So that's kind of the two types of servitors. They're the limited ones with very specific tasks and lifespan, and the ones that are for longer. With most servitors, you usually tend to want to build in either an end that's automatic, like the one task thing, or the 3 tasks or 5 years or something, or you want to have a way of getting rid of them. Because if they're active and taskless, they're still going to do stuff. It may not be what you want. So I recommend that you either keep them busy or have them hibernate and basically tell them that's what they're to do. But don't just let them go loose off and not pay attention. Servitors need attention. Servitors need, and thought forms, to exist, to do their jobs. They need your attention on a regular basis. They need to be fed. Not regular food, but they need to be fed with attention at the very, very least, in praise when they do something right. When they accomplish a task or they accomplish part of a task, then praise for sure. Servitors are not like God forms or demons where you need to threaten them, or even feel like you need to threaten them, or you have to feel subservient to them. You're not lesser or greater in that sense. You don't bully them, you don't bow to them. They're basically your employee. And if you're a good employer and take care of your employees, what you're going to get is an incredible workforce, an incredible workplace. It's going to be amazing, which most employers these days don't. They seem to have forgotten that. Yeah. But if you do that, then wow, they will work for you. They will do things for you. Okay, so servitors, thought forms. Anything else I wanted to say about those tulpas? Basically, you don't really do a thought form or a tulpa for tasks. And you do them to have someone to help you do things, but more in the sense of you want to learn more about something. And it's not like, dear servitor, go get me that book I've always wanted to read, but nobody seems to have. It's more like, dear thought form, dear tulpa, can you access this knowledge and share it with me? That's more how I would use a thought form or a tulpa. And how you create them is very, very different. I've created them simply by strong intention, strong visualization, not wanting to have something to dominate, not wanting to have something to bow down to, but wanting to have a colleague, like a research colleague or a companion. Yeah, so that kind of thing. Okay, servitors, you want to do more in terms of specifics. I'm almost thinking that it might be worthwhile just to do an audio of a specific kind of ritual that you could use to create a servitor. Anyhow, there's tons of stuff in books on how to create servitors. The Condensed Chaos book from Phil Heim that now there's an audio copy of, and you should be tagged on by now, or you will be tomorrow. That has some in it. There's also some from Damon Brand, Magical Servitors, I think the book is called. If you want me to go specific on it, let me know that you'd like a ritual, and I'm more than happy to record an audio of a ritual. That wouldn't be a problem. Okay, so I think that's it for tonight. I know it's not as long as they usually are. Everybody's asleep or busy. Okay, that's it, guys. Have a good week. I will see you next Monday. I hope all of you are trying some of these things and having some success. Please let me know. Okay, thank you, and good night.